Mr. President, yesterday after meeting with Foreign Ministers Berg of Israel and Hassan Ali of Egypt, you said without elaboration that unanticipated progress had been made in restarting those trilateral talks here in Washington on Palestinian autonomy. But Foreign Minister Berg said today those initial discussions would not include the issue of Jerusalem. Given the importance of that issue, what progress has been made this week, and what's the cause of your optimism?
I am determined that the prospect for a summit meeting will not interfere with the substantive negotiations that must precede it.
Returning once to that question on the lifting of the lethal arms sales shipments to China, does that affect in any way our relationship with Taiwan, and if so, how? Does that move us in any direction, either to or away from the government of Taiwan?
No, and I have not changed my feeling about Taiwan.
The facts about George Bush are these. He's 54 years old. He was elected to only one political office in his career. He lost 2 other statewide attempts in Texas. He was born in Massachusetts, but made his fortune in Houston. He headed the Republican Party during Watergate, the CIA during some of its toughest years, and he was envoy to Peking when relations with China were still decidedly shaky. Now, George Bush wants to be president of the United States. In a couple of years, the last of the Watergate tapes were recorded in Mr. Nixon's office will be released, public consumption, or public listening at any rate. You were heading the Republican National Committee at that time. Is there anything on those tapes that concerns George Bush?
I don't think anything concerns me. I don't know what other people say about me on tape behind my back. That whole perception of people taping others profoundly troubles me. But my life has been clean in government. My service at the party was to keep the party out of the Watergate mess. The day I took over, in January of 1973, at the initial press conference, I said this party was not involved in Watergate, and I am convinced that the party shouldn't be dragged down by Watergate. And it was tough out there. There was a lot of noise. There was a lot of insinuation and adversarial reporting and accusations that weren't true. But I emerged clean. I kept the party out of the morass, and so I don't fear the tapes at all.
There are primary campaigns and there are other elections in other states. But here in New Hampshire, the voters consider theirs, well, something a little more special. For one thing, of course, it's the first primary in the presidential sweepstakes, and state officials thoroughly intend to keep it that way. But the biggest difference is that the New Hampshire primary is so small. For one thing, there are only about 750,000 people here, and the state's party registration system further limits the number of actual voters. So a candidate or his volunteer workers could theoretically shake the hand of every potential voter during the course of a campaign. So even Loeb's newspaper can't move New Hampshire voters to dance to any single political tune. And despite Reagan's conservative stature and New Hampshire's conservative image, even the analysts have learned not to kiss off the remainder of the crowded Republican presidential field. In this state, dark horses have a habit of becoming winners. At this time of year, the weather in New Hampshire is nothing short of glorious. But closer to the February primary, our candidates will be slogging and sniffling through mud and snow to win the votes of these good people. And if the tradition continues, the voters will be coming up with a few surprises to baffle the political experts. Surprises which could change the outcome of the conventions next summer. In New Hampshire, I'm Jackson Bain reporting. If that's the case, then Ronald Reagan may in fact be thinking more in the lines of a moderate, because Gerald Ford, above all things, is pushing Ronald Reagan to pick a moderate. And in this particular list, that moderate would be George Bush. Despite all the wrangling and division over the language in this little book, the 1980 Republican platform might as well be written in disappearing ink. For one thing, this platform, like most such documents, is just a generalized wish book for the party. It offers very few specifics for treating the nation's ills.
For another, it supposes two yet-to-be-decided factors, a Ronald Reagan White House and a Republican-controlled Congress. And now we know who the nominee is. Second spot on the Reagan ticket will be held by former ambassador, former head of the Central Intelligence Agency, former head of the Republican Party, former first envoy to Peking, George Bush. Reporting from Detroit, this is Jackson Bain. But the Kennedy sources that we talked to tonight, just outside this hall, in the small trailers, just in the little hallway outside the convention arena, told me that yes, the senator would be supporting the Democratic ticket, and they say that means he will stump. He will be on the campaign trail. Now, if that happens, you'll have the unity by Thursday night. And I can fairly well predict to you that by Thursday night on that podium up there, you're going to see Senator Ted Kennedy, Vice President Walter Mondale, and Jimmy Carter all raising hands high.